Hello everyone, Ryan here, and today we have another episode of the Not Really Qualified to Talk About Music podcast. And today, this is an exciting one, guys. We have a legend, a legend in our presence, because hey, Spectrum Pulse, Mark Condon has decided to join us for this episode, and it's going to be great. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a little bit of a crazy couple of weeks and everything just landing down properly, but it's been doing well.
Yeah, awesome, man. That's great. And Josh, I'm supposed to ask you how you're doing.
Yeah,
how are you doing, Josh?
I'm doing absolutely great, my friend. I can't believe that intro you gave Mark. A legend.
Yeah.
Although I guess
Well,
I guess
it's a legend.
I would not qualify myself as a legend.
I think.
Like,
come on.
I think you are a veteran.
Yeah, a veteran's a good word. Yeah.
You've been doing it so long now, and like, right? You know,
coming up on 5 years.
Oh wow.
Well, I mean,
That's
were
crazy.
you writing before that though?
I was. A lot of my earliest reviews started off on Facebook, and those nobody can see anymore because they're. Well, my Facebook stuff, I don't post anything like publicly in terms of my reviews at all there anymore. Probably should as soon as I'm actually working on a rebranding exercise, so a bunch of that I might actually start rejiggering Facebook to better suit that. And I've got a friend of mine who's helping me. I actually have two friends who are helping me with that. The second piece, though, is then in the summer of 2012, I graduated. I was living in Edmonton. I didn't have a car in Edmonton. Just to give you a little bit of context, Edmonton is a city in the Midwest of Canada, so it's close to the mountains, which is beautiful. But there's nothing to do. None of my friends were there at all.
Right.
So I spent most of my time working out, wandering in the woods, and listening to music. And that's when I started writing.
And
Nice.
And was that I guess like the point where you saw music? You sort of saw music as a thing you could critique, or have you always like critiqued music?
I was never a huge. I always had strong opinions about that, but I was also coming from. I came from a lot of the scene that had, let's say, like Todd in the Shadows. I saw some Buckley. I saw some Rap Critic. And if you take a look at my very early top tens, like you can tell there was a lot of Todd influence bleeding in.
Yeah.
And I think when it came to my more recent stuff, a lot of it began percolating out. Once you get about 100 reviews in, you start developing your own individual style.
Yeah, definitely. It does seem like for a while though people kind of just echoing Todd's opinions, don't they? But I think eventually people kind of like, realize that actually I've got my own opinions now, and then there's kind of been a bunch of like different people, haven't there? Like the Double Agent came out on YouTube. Unfortunately, I don't think he posts anymore, but he was great. But he was like a new sort of like era for it. But yeah.
Well, Ethan, he and I actually did a video together. We did the top 10 worst hit songs of 2008.
I think I watched that, actually, yeah.
We did a collaboration early 2016 at a convention, and that was so much fun, because he was a lot of fun to write with and work with. I really miss him. He had a lot of other stuff going on. I think he will only come back to do, year-end lists and sort of thing like that. And, keep in mind, this is the other thing that I think a lot of people tend to forget. A lot of folks are still in high school.
Yeah,
they're still very much in college or something like that. I've been graduated out of school for 6-7 years, so I have a little more free time where I can step in. He was still in high school, so I totally get if there's other stuff that's taken up his time, it's more important than YouTube.
Oh yeah, definitely,
yeah. I mean, now the community now as it is, I think there is. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of college kids and. Most are young. I mean, Ryan. I mean, you're young, Ryan, but you're not in college or university or anything.
No, I'm one of the older young ones.
You still work 2 jobs though.
I do, yeah.
So, I mean,
it's great.
That's impressive. But then there's people like Brad Taste in Music, who is he 18 now? I think he's 18 now. Or
yeah, he's 18. Yeah.
He's still in school. I know his Patreon is based around
I want to get a laptop so I can do this full time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, basically.
So I think that the community is still now very much kids. Everybody's super young.
Well, I think it's actually a little bit paradoxical because you have like if you like, I remember like there's a couple of people who are like older mainstays in the community, like Cover Killer Nation, for instance.
Yeah.
I think he's in his late 30s, early 40s. A lot of the dead end hip hop guys are older than you probably think. Like those guys are in their mid 30s to early 40s as well. Like I think Ken's in his early to mid 40s, and when you're balancing out that scene with the new crop, and then you have the guys who are in the middle, and like Anthony Fantano's early 30s, John over at ARTV, he's a year younger than me. Luke James is, I think he's a little older than me, but he's also at a different stage in life because he has kids.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's good to. It's a great variety, though. I mean, like I never feel like I'm watching the same video whenever I go on. You know, like you just named all those names there, and every single one, like, it just brings a different thing. Like, it's great. It's so cool to have that sort of access to like.
I wish there were more girls doing it.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, there's very few. I can name a couple. I mean, Amy from the Sound Bin, she's starting to like rise a little bit. She's pretty good. Yeah, she's got a website too, and I know there's I think she's Russian. She's called Meanwhile on the Other Stage. She's alright. She's about 800 subscribers. She's bigger than me. But yeah, she posts quite a bit. But that's about it, I guess, in terms of like females in the music reviewing game. It's kind of sad, but yeah, hopefully it rises.
There's a few more. There's Infinity on Hannah, John's girl. She puts out good quality stuff there. A lot of really well edited stuff too. There's one other person, and she and I were actually planning a collaboration, just never came together. Katie Wawa.
Oh, okay.
A lot of her stuff she is crazy smart, and a lot of her stuff was very focused on like indie singer-songwriter stuff. She was a big Lana Del Rey fan. We talked a lot about like Chelsea Wolfe. We were gonna do not Primal Chaos. It was a weird UK dance act that we were both kind of into, and the collab never came together. It's a shame, but there are a few of them, and I think there's one other Kumara Fang.
Oh yeah, Kumara Fang. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe more than we realized.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as, you know, big, I don't want to say big YouTubers, but I guess like staples in the community. Pretty much everybody you listed there, Mark, is what I would call a staple, who I feel pretty much everybody in the community knows of, or, you know, has at least watched a few of their videos. And I want to add, I'd like to add do you know Deep Cuts, Mark? Are you familiar with Deep Cuts?
Oh yeah, I watch his stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I just think in terms of his quality is so high.
I know.
And
the man's got like he can his wording is stunning, and like even if it's like a record I have previously not enjoyed, he will make me go and listen to it. Like he can just
he operates on a higher tier. Like he's
yeah.
Those guys, I'm like, you know what? I will be like. He speaks at the sort of graduate level presentation that, I'll be very honest, I wish the pop song Professor did.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Deep Cuts is like, even when I disagree with him, I'm never like, oh, I really disagree with you here. Like, how dare you say it? Like, I'm just like, all right, you know, I don't know how to argue with what you're saying. But no, he's just so good.
I was chatting to him because I redid his channel a few days ago, and when I was chatting to him and when we were talking over ideas, I was saying to him that like he absolutely trashed Pure Comedy by Father John Misty.
Oh, good.
He trashed.
I'm glad.
Jack White's new album.
Oh, good.
I absolutely adore both those albums, but I was okay,
Fantana.
Oh, okay. No.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like so entertained by the way he was trashing them. Like you can't get mad at that dude. I can't believe you just called him Fantano. Like
that was a joke. Come on, it was don't worry. It's all jokes up in here.
Now I feel like Brad Taste. Like I think he's worried. He's been worried recently that people have been saying that, you know, he has the same opinions as Fantano.
Yeah, I saw him say that. I've not seen anything like directed at him about it, but it might just be on his comments or something. But it's a bit stupid. I mean,
he's getting comments now. You know.
He's
Well,
getting comments.
the funny thing is, I made a smart ass comment in just a Twitter back and
saw
forth,
that,
and
yeah.
I'm waiting for the day when your sanity breaks apart when you realize that you have a different opinion.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I wonder what it is like, because I find myself saying to myself, damn, like every like album Fantano's really liked this year, I've really liked as well, and I can't, like, I started getting anxiety. Maybe like Fantano does control my music taste. You know when he did he did that video where he was like, I control
he did the video,
your music taste. I'm like, is
yeah,
this guy some sort of robot from the future that has got me brainwashed, you know?
That's funny though, because for me it's been the opposite this year. Like, this is the 1 year every album he's given a real positive review. I'm just like, I've either hated or I've just been like, yeah, it's okay. Like, it's really weird. So I don't know.
I think for me it comes with understanding his taste. I get where he comes from on his records. Like, I can't defend Boarding House Reach.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I totally get why people love it. I don't, because I don't think it's got the groove and the underlying foundation to work effectively for me. And but I totally get the appeal of a record like that. It's the same sort of thing when he went crazy over Brockhampton last year.
Yeah.
I get why he loves it as much as he does. It just, for me, it just doesn't resonate in the same way. At the same time, like, I think at some point when you've put out as much content as the two of us have, even with John, like, where I think I get a firm idea of where a lot of ARTV stuff comes from. Like, I think we basically, you can almost predict where we're going to fall on certain reviews based upon just our back catalog and what our tastes have been defined by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you disagree with John more, or you agree with him more? Like, what's your sort of take?
We have very different. I've actually met with him in person, and we've hung out. We listen to a lot of similar stuff, and I think the thing that John does not get enough credit for is that there's a lot of reviews he doesn't make because he's very conscious, knowing that it will not get the larger audience.
Yeah.
So, like, one thing that I think surprised a lot of people is when he gave so much praise to the newest album from Steven Wilson, To the Bone.
Right.
Which, very progressive rock side of thing. He would never cover it in terms of the branding for his channel. But at the same time, like, it's a fantastic record. It made my year-end list, and I think it made his as well. Or at least there was a song from it that made one of his year-end list. And I think when we get an idea of, I think if more people accepted and realized that, I think they would be a little bit more understanding towards where his tastes lie.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, don't you think it's a bit of a shame though that he doesn't? I understand that he's got a channel branding and stuff like that, but
yeah,
if he does like have these, these records in the back of his mind that he truly loves, don't you think it's just a bit of a shame that he doesn't, come out and review them? Or is it purely based on the fact that he wants to keep those records for himself and review the stuff that he knows people will want him to review?
I think some of it's a balancing act, because I think there was a very different thing when it comes to how we structure our schedules. So for me, so much of the weight is off my shoulders because I have Patreon.
Yeah.
And shameless plug here for a minute.
No, yeah. Please do.
Support Mark.
Because for my specific Patreon, at the $1 level, 3 times a week, you guys get to vote on my schedule, and the higher tiers, you guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to my schedule.
I feel like I'm watching your video.
I've restructured things so it's not per video anymore; it's per month.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to buy in and get stuff that actually show up on my schedule, and some people have taken advantage of it. Although I'll freely admit, I screwed up when it came to the Patreon transition over. I actually screwed up pretty big, because I had the assumption that enough people would be engaged immediately that they would take advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
And I relied too much on the concept that people would be engaged.
Right. I mean, that to me seems like a decent way of doing things. I know So if you're a $1 Patreon to you're allowed to add any album you want, or do you give them albums and then they vote on it?
Well, I actually have a schedule that I actually have on a Google Doc.
Yeah.
And three times a week, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays, they get to vote on where records are on my schedule. Because I have a top tier for upcoming releases and stuff that dropped that week. A tier below that came stuff that came out in the previous 2 weeks, and then a tier below all that for random stuff that gets added out throughout the rest of the year that I don't have a chance to cover. Then I got the trailing edge, which is where I knock out like 10 records. I just do not have enough place to fill space on it. And then I've got an elevated tier where once something gets into that thing, I pretty much will cover it in some shape or form. Either it winds up on the trailing edge, or it will show up on a regularly scheduled review.
Yeah. I've always.
So,
I was just about to say, like, I've always seen that as a really smart thing to do. Like, there's this thing my mum has always said. That not that I'm saying that you would treat your fans this way, but like with children, if you go into them with a restaurant, right, and you want them to have the choice of where they want to sit, but you still want to control it. You say, okay, should we sit there or should we sit there? And they feel like they've been given all of this choice, yet you are still controlling it. I always have that in the back of my mind, and I think that's a better way of going about things. Whereas when I was looking at Brad's Patreon recently, because he said that he covered the Weezer album that somebody asked him to, but he thought that the video was boring. I thought like, well, there's your there's the thing you have learnt now, because this person said, oh, cover the Weezer album. You didn't give them 2 or 3 choices for what you wanted to do, and it's like it's giving the people more too much freedom almost. And so I think go on.
Well, I think part of it is in this. I'll have to stress this was a learning exercise for me. This was the sort of thing that took probably a good 6 months to a year to get a proper structure on this, because 2017, I think there was a lot of great music, but I don't think it was a great year for my channel. I guess in terms of how much growth I wanted to inspire, and I hope that the Patreon would really build into that. But I also wound up putting out a lot of reviews, which I thought weren't great, or weren't up to the standard in which I wanted to have them. And I'll admit, I hit a brick wall and nearly burned out midway through April of last year.
Wow.
Right.
And that's
why is that?
I was covering so much, I didn't feel like I was enjoying it. I felt that there was a lot of stuff that just was not resonating with me either. And when you hit that, when you hit the burnout point, you need to be able to pivot out. You need to be able to walk away, take a break. I didn't think I took enough of a break, but then I also started replanning things. I'm like, okay, so buy Photoshop, learn how to make thumbnails properly, which helped. And then I hit a string of good records, and then I did the trip down in the summer, which was awesome.
So I was just going to ask as well, like, do you feel as though with this new schedule, with like fans sort of like having their say, do you think that's sort of done a thing with, like we were saying about ARTV, where it's like, okay, the fans are expecting certain types of videos, so now you're kind of catering towards that, and you're not doing videos that you would want to do, or you're not? Is it not affected it too much?
It's not affected it in the same way, because at the end of the day, if I have a record that I think I just do not have enough material to make a good review on, it winds up on the trailing edge. And then I'll knock a good 10, 11 out in one sitting. It's a bitch to edit, but at the same time, it's something that I'm actually more enjoyable. I think it just tends to come out a little bit better. It also gives me the chance to. I'll still crank out a pretty vicious review every once in a while, like. I'll put out the XXXTentacion, which I didn't want to cover that record at all. But at the same time, there was enough intellectual conversation to be stimulated out of it that I want to cover it. Like this week, for instance, the primary records is probably going to come up on the schedule. Just a bit of a teaser. It's going to be Janelle Monáe, which I'm crazy psyched for. New Resonators, which is self-titled Bad Brains. But at the same time, I'm also going to have the Wiley record, because he finally released it. And it's I don't think it's going to be as good as Godfather 1.
No.
Which is sad because like Godfather 1 was really good, and I'm not enough of a grime fan to speak otherwise around it, but I think it's going to be interesting. But the other one's Post Malone.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm covering Post Malone in a full review is because Candy Paint is on that album. And Candy Paint is a fucking great song.
It is. Yeah, I mean, I've only listened to it once, but like, Candy Paint stood out to me almost immediately, in the same way that maybe Rockstar stood out to me as well. It was kind of like wading through a lot of shit to find a bit of gold, you know? That's kind of how this Post Malone album felt to me.
Yeah, it's a bit too long, isn't it? I mean, an hour, just
Gosh.
But to get back to the point you guys were looking to make surrounding where John's schedule is, in terms of a lot of his stuff, he's looking to he's very much focusing on pushing his channel towards stuff that's going to drive traffic.
Right.
And you know what? I can't fault him for the hustle there. Like if he's got stuff, of course I wish that he would cover records that would be in a little bit of a different lane. But he's really acknowledged, like, we got you for that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also now that you say he's on the grind, like, that makes a lot of sense to me, because there are times where he like covers albums because he gets them a day before they release. He will cover them on the day before the release just to be like, you know, to be the first one to get his review out there. I've always thought like that sucks, because I mean, I like to know that like they've, you know, reviewers or critics have taken their time with a record or whatever, but like Hustle, if that's where he's at, then who am I to say? I don't understand.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, to be fair, he's kind of not wrong. I mean, I review so many like small albums, and like I get barely any views, so like I think it would be the same for him as well, but it just depends on what you want to talk about the most, and you know, maybe just would rather talk about other things, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think part of it does come down, and I think this is the sort of thing that a lot of the community doesn't quite understand when it comes to the financial business side of this. Because John's still working a full-time, he's still working pretty extensively another side job.
Yeah.
But he's got his place where he's paying a mortgage and stuff like that. Yeah. And when you start realizing that this isn't just coffee or beer money or something to buy a laptop, you're now trying to make a living off of this.
Yeah.
You're kind of obliged to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at why Fantano covers the popular albums instead of he's like. And he'll freely admit himself that he'd prefer to focus on weird off-kilter stuff like that he wants to specifically cover. I can't blame him for that. Yeah. Now, and in all due honesty, I think that's where I run into both, from my own content, I run into both a strength and a weakness, because there is stuff that I'm like, I'm in a good job right now where I can effectively go and work on that, and I don't have that same sense of urgency. Whereas someone like John clearly does, and I'm gonna respect him for his hustle there. Like if he's gonna push in that lane and has that level of fervor, then good for him. Even if it involves things like dropping the review a couple days early because he gets a review copy from the label. It always raises a weird question though surrounding review embargoes for some
exactly houses,
because that does happen with movies for sure. And I know that certain reviews will go up a couple days because critics have the universally expected embargo. But the problem is that YouTube critics rarely, if ever, have been invited into the larger critical space for whatever the hell that is. So there's no concept of an embargo surrounding our side. So John drops a review whenever he can.
And I guess it also puts that whole thing like, well, are you going to be more positive towards it because, you know, you've been given it early and stuff like that, and like, because a lot of publications end up doing that as well, don't they? Like, they'll give like a really high score, but like every other review, like it's still a high score, and they never give out negative reviews, and it's just like, what can you trust? Like, what does any of it mean? What's an 8 out of 10 mean to you? Like, enemy, come on, when do you ever give out a 3 out of 10?
Well, this is what I was wondering. Mark, I don't know if you saw the sort of roast in quotation marks that Brad gave ARTV John.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, and one of the points in that video Brad brought up was that ARTV, you know, for a while now he hasn't really given an album a terrible score, if you know what I mean. Like, the majority of his reviews are warm, you know, a 3 or a 3.5, which is, you know, relatively warm. It's more on the positive side. I don't know. I mean, because you know him better, is that more of him? He just covers records that he likes, and he doesn't talk about, you know, records that he finds are terrible. Is that a thing you know about?
I think there's a few layers to this that I don't think always gets appreciated.
Yeah.
I think the first one is that in terms of the branding on his channel, he's got his specific lane, and if like he's not the kind of guy who is going to cover the latest atrocity that's coming out of the SoundCloud scene. Which immediately, like, you're not going to have that additional subset, and honestly, I have, like, even while some of his stuff is warmer, like, or he might be warmer towards certain albums, it's also who he is. Like, he's also generally, like, he's not going to cut in quite as deeply as I'm going to be when I'm going to nitpick something to hell and back.
Okay.
And that's partially me and to some extent Fantano, who are a little bit more meticulous is the wrong word, but we're a tad more cynical.
Yeah.
When spotting some of those things, so we'll both be the kinds to give J. Cole a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. I think, like, what I mean. Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you know, if ARTV is that, John is that kind of person, I'm going to start calling him John, not ARTV.
Yeah.
I can fully understand that. But I have seen John tear stuff apart before, like, better than anyone can. I've seen him tear stuff apart, but generally the stuff I've seen him tear apart has been like, you know, that 21 Pilots version of My Chemical Romance's Cancer.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, and it absolutely is awful. And he, like, tore it apart. He, like, tore it to shreds, like, better than anyone else could. Do you think he, just, that's where his passion lies, truly? So he just sort of, you know, that's what makes him angry. Whereas, like, general albums, you know, like the Post Malone album or whatever, he will, as you say, as I said, just be warm to naturally.
I think it comes down to personal taste at the end of the day. I think if you see something that pisses you off on a fundamental level, and I get for as much as an MCR fan as he was, to see something, see 21 Pilots utterly miss the point, and deliver what they did there. I think that's that got his hackles up. Because let's make no mistake, when John wants to go in, he will go in. I've seen his Problem series. I've seen some of the larger roast and commentary stuff that he does. He is as opinionated as anybody. I think what happens is that he's hit some larger fan bases before, and he's gotten blowback in some cases and I can't blame him. Like, he's run into situations where some of the blowback is unwarranted. As it's happened to me too. I totally get that. And sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. And honestly, you should have him on the podcast to get him to go into the details where it does feel a little more unwarranted.
Well,
I mean, I guess some people just handle it in different ways. And if he doesn't want to have that blowback, you know, and then maybe he just doesn't want to review the album that'll give him that blowback, and that's fine. That's fine.
I know that's one reason he does not cover Fifth Harmony.
Yeah.
Right.
And really, given the 2 reviews I put out of 3 reviews now, and how much crap that I got through that, like, sometimes you don't have to wish drama upon yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's weird that you said that, like, we should get John on the podcast, because so since this Brad and ARTV collaboration or interview type thing they did very recentk, where they sort of, you know, mended things, and I spoke to Brad and said thank you for getting John on, because I thought it was nice to see John in this not so like he's for some reason in the community, and I mean sometimes I understand he's kind of held at like this devilish, like fiendish man position, whereas like on this pod,
and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's make this abundantly clear. There are some people who I think who have had a grudge against him for a long time.
Yeah,
and I think he's also, again, and when I think a lot of this has to be placed in the context that, again, he's approaching this like a business.
Yeah.
He's approaching this with a certain degree of professionalism, but also he's the kind of guy who's going to say what he wants, and he'll go off on Twitter when he feels like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tough balancing act, and I think it has raised the hackles of some people who are a little bit peeved that his style has blown up the way he has. Right. But at the same time, like, again, it's the sort of thing where when you've been in the scene long enough, and where he will be as freely self-critical as he has, and that's the thing I think tends to go a little unnoticed, that they call him out like he doesn't have any sense of humor, and I'm like, you did see the video where he did his 7 on Sundays of my own worst cringeworthy videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I said shit about John, and like, it wasn't.
So have I.
Yeah, and like, but I've said shit, and I mean, like, as I've sort of been in the community, longer. I haven't been in very long, but the more I am, the more I can respect, and the more I talk to people like you who come from knowing him and the Brad video, the more I'm like, oh man, like the things I said were unwarranted and they were too harsh, and I understand why I said them at the time, but like at the end of the day, we're all. I know I said we were all kids before, but I think we're all adults, and we can be like adult about things and be friends, and like the community needs to be a bit more together, and I think blocking John out is totally unwarranted and unfair.
It is.
I think part of it is also because we're in an era where Twitter makes it so easy to be miscommunicated or appropriated.
Yes,
it's true.
I think a lot of people, myself included, at some points would be better just taking steps off of Twitter. And here's the other thing. I think as music critics, we set ourselves up to have controversial or rough opinions or stuff that would otherwise be challenging. Like, if I come up here and say that S Club 7 is one of the most underrated pop bands of the 90s, and they are,
then we'll cancel the call.
But at the same time, that is a loaded statement saying to anybody who is from England, I know this.
I love that take. Honestly, what I will say, like, Mark, that take has stuck with me. I think of that take almost every day of my entire life. I'm not joking.
Wow.
I'm not joking.
I told you, Mark, you're a legend. What did I say?
You are a veteran at this point. Like, I think about that take every day. And, like, on a more serious note, like, the thing I also think about is, oh my god, like, one of my favorite reviews on YouTube, and even, like, written reviews, like, whatever, ever, my favorite reviews ever is got to be your Black Star review. You made me
that was a great one.
Me cry. Like, I cried watching that review.
That was a one-take review that I basically... There are certain artists that just have that fundamental impact on you. Like, and here's the one thing that I've always struggled with when it comes to that side of genuine emotion you want to bring to the table, because again, that was right in the aftermath of when David Bowie passed away, and it's the sort of thing where in the back of your mind you know that any emotion you put on display will immediately draw additional traffic. There is that part when you live on YouTube as long as you have, you realize that if you get really emotional, that you're gonna get tons and tons more views on it. And that's a little messed up. Actually, it's very messed up. Because there's always that performative side of things. And there is stuff I cut out of that review because I felt that it was... it's the sort of thing where it's very hard to edit a review like that. Because you realize it becomes exceptionally emotional, and And at the same time, though, it was a real emotion. I did feel that when David Bowie passed away.
I felt
like,
it. I felt your emotion.
But at the same time, like it's when, let's circle back to when he made out his reaction commentary videos when Chester Bennington passed away.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with Hannah and John afterwards, and that was real. Like, that was not fake. That was coming from a place where it was genuine. And you look at when Fantano made his Black Star review, like how somber he was in that video. Even when he did his A Crow Looked at Me review, you could tell like those are somber, real moments. And I think the nature of YouTube being both kind of performative and that we are editing it, and there is that slight veneer of artifice, it always gets in a weird place of how blurry it gets when it does feel like it gets more real. And when the person who's actually delivering it actually tries to show something that feels genuine or tries to impart a genuine emotion, or is genuinely trying to unnerve or place the audience outside of the typical viewing experience.
Yeah, but I think that's what I love so much about your review, and it kind of made me realize that, I mean, it's what music reviewing is almost one of those. It's one of those places where genuine emotion, happy or sad, for me anyway, always feels actually genuine, especially by Fantano, you, or Deep Cuts, or whoever. Like, it made me feel like it feels very raw, even though you're editing the videos. It's still in the back of my mind feels like you're editing them with the same like emotion that is put into the review at the time.
I get that. Yeah,
definitely. Are you guys still there? It's gone quiet.
I'm still there. Yeah, I'm just hearing a lot of scratching on your end.
Yeah. I think Josh, you cut out a little bit.
Sorry, did I? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry.
We got you.
My Wi-Fi. I think my Wi-Fi went off for like a second, and I lost it already. Sorry, where
it's all
were
good.
we?
We were just
talking about genuine emotion in reviews, and that's the other. And to switch it up onto a very different line of thought.
Yeah.
When I did AJR, all that anger was real.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, anger is definitely like it's not. I wouldn't say easy, but it's like the most common thing that catches people. You know, like if a music review is negative, it's 100% gonna like attract people.
But again, there is something performative when it comes into that whole scene, because you look at the angry video game nerd, if you circle out of different genres, and how much of that was hyperbolic and over the top. And that's why one reason I was so conscious of when I actually give out a 1 out of 10, or when I do unleash that level of vitriol, or when I actually swear more in my videos, I want to make sure it has some friggin' impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, what's your most sort of, I don't know, what's your most like recent album that you no, actually, has there been any reviews where you've actually had to like stop because of how angry you've gotten?
Like as in just turn off the review, walk away, just not get involved?
You need to take like 5 minutes.
The thing with the AJR review is that I was so pissed off with how that all came together, but I was also really sick when I filmed that.
Right.
So I basically sat down and I'm like, my script is long as hell. This is going to be a 20-minute video. I just have to power through this. I've had bad episodes of Billboard Breakdown in that lane where it's just there's so much garbage like that it has been a real trial. Like the most recent one was the XXXTentacion album bomb along with Freaky Friday.
Oh my gosh. Freaky Friday, man. Isn't it amazing that that song exists in 2018? Like,
it's crazy. So outdated.
It does.
Like the idea of Freaky Friday, yeah.
I mean, like,
oh god.
Not only has it been covered in so many songs, but like, it's been covered by Chris Brown and Lil Dicky in 2018. That's phenomenal to me.
We're at such a low point. I don't understand. And this actually leads me on to a question I want to ask Mark. Mark, obviously I'm small, so I don't really have that much impact on people's music listening. But what overall do you think like YouTube reviewers have much of an impact or have a big impact? Because like, for example, your AGR review, like you destroyed that album, and yet AGR still have like quite a decent fan base that's growing. Like, what do you think?
Well, AJR saw my review.
Oh, right. Nice.
Oh, I know they did. And they basically tried to call me out by saying that, oh, well, he got facts wrong and like it wasn't worth paying any more attention to.
Oh my God.
Right.
And, well, because they didn't like the fact that I called out that they're distributors from a major label.
Right.
And, which for me is very much of, okay, the reason why you are blowing up the way you have,
because
you have those major label contacts.
Yeah,
you're being bankrolled in that whole environment. I know how the music industry works, so don't try to play up the whole, we're entirely independent.
Yeah. We've seen that shit go down.
But that pisses me off because I have seen enough independent labels or independent artists. Like, there's one artist I covered earlier this year. Her name's Courtney Patton. She's a country artist. And she markets all of her own music. She's entirely independent, and she puts all her own music on her own website. Like, she's not even on Spotify, I don't think.
Wow.
And a lot of it is very much it's ground level. That's how her music gets distributed.
Yeah.
And I want to cover it because nobody else covers country on YouTube, which is sad. But
I will say though, Mark.
But at the same,
sorry to cut here, but like,
yeah, go ahead.
I will say that you, on me anyway, I think you alone have like gotten me to pay attention to more like country artists. I know you had the thing with
for sure.
I know you had the thing with Casey Musgraves that you had a bit of a rant on Twitter about, but you know, it's not just Casey Musgraves. Like, I've been genuinely, you know, getting into more country stuff because of you alone. I wouldn't feel like you are, you know, you're not reaching out to people here because I genuinely think you are.
Well, on the one hand, you just answered your own question whether or not music critics influence people.
Yeah.
That wasn't my question. That was Ryan's question.
Yeah. Technically, that was mine. Yeah.
But on the other hand, though, in terms of me making a larger impact upon the music scene, Fantano can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen it countless times.
Look at Death Grips, you know? Like,
Death Grips, Brockhampton especially.
Definitely.
It's amazing.
And
it's amazing.
Well, it's thrilling. It is genuinely thrilling. And even take a look at what some of the stuff that Dead End Hip Hop has done. Like, they dropped like the Joint mixtape a couple years back. Like, they have put artists on and they have done well. Not to the same extent of what Fantano can do, but at the same time, when you have an influencer in that lane, you can blow people up in the same way. And
yeah, definitely.
For me, I think my reach is a lot smaller. I'm not gonna say that I can blow somebody up or anything like that, but I will say, like among critics in the community, for instance, like, nobody would have talked about Eric Taxon if it wasn't for the multiple reviews I've given him.
Yeah, so
that's true.
Where Eric Taxon came from. He was such an enigma to me. And then one day, like, he popped out. Like, I think you showed me him, Ryan, and I didn't realize.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Like, how many people knew him. But it's interesting to know that's where that's where he came from. I guess like.
Oh, he was a Bandcamp artist, and the guy's smart as hell.
Yeah.
He actually he contributed to my Patreon to get copy on my schedule, and I never covered it at the end of 2016, but I heard it because he sampled me on it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then he referenced me by name on the Art State a year later, so
that's amazing.
But it's uncanny, but at the same time, like, when you realize that he has said himself, he actually did an interview with Mark Burnham of Spin It Reviews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did an interview with him.
Right.
And then he mentioned that thanks to me placing Real Boy, one of his songs, so high on my list of my best songs of 2017, he did see additional traffic for that.
Yeah.
But then again, not to denigrate Eric on some of his own stuff, he actually put up a video essay surrounding why Paul Joseph Watson and his ilk hate modern art so much, and that video essay just blew up. I think it's got like 50,000-60,000 hits right at this point.
Gosh.
Wow,
I haven't seen it.
that's awesome.
Oh my god, I need to see that. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that sounds
So
cool.
so you know, like, I think that is I think it definitely is important that, I know we were talking about you want to cover the big artists, but like, it's definitely important that YouTubers like yourself are covering Bandcamp artists. I mean, in our last episode of this podcast, we talked a lot about Bandcamp and how
we did.
how like we feel it's so important to the sort of progression of streaming. And it itself, the app itself shows off very small artists. But it's certainly it's very important that we're giving a bit of limelight, I guess, to small artists who we genuinely deserve. And I think that's the powerful thing about YouTube reviewing, is that it catches on. If somebody gives a good review, it will catch on in the community, and the community is getting
definitely
getting bigger now. So
But I think the one thing that actually is important to stress here is that even when you're approaching a lot of the Bandcamp artists, you have those that are very ready for prime time, and who actually like I look at Eric Taxon and I'm like, yes, this guy is going to be a cult icon in the next 5-10 years.
I think
if he continues the way he is doing, he is talented and smart enough that he will get there. On the other hand, and I'm not going to name any names here, I have been approached by artists that I have covered in more of the Bandcamp circuit in that scene, who have been pissed off by the fact that I have given them more middling
Oh my
reviews.
gosh, Mark, I literally have something up on my phone that I want to bring up, which I think is incredibly relevant to this, what you're about to say. Mark, you will definitely know this tweet. Critics are subhuman. It's parasitic to profit off the work of others.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Can I confirm that is a person that you've given a bad review to?
I didn't give him a bad review. I covered him on the Trailing Edge.
Right.
I gave the album a 5 out of 10. I stand by that review. And honestly, it's not even that it's bad. It's just that I heard, like, I listened to this, I'm like, yeah, this is okay in terms of the electronica that he's looking to do. But Visible Cloaks did this last year and did it frankly better in terms of the organic, synthetic, chilly blend of synths that he was looking to bring to the table. I thought some of the beats were a little overmixed, and it just didn't really connect with me. I didn't have much to say in a full review. And when it falls into that point, you also keep in mind that I'm very much aware of that scene's presence, and the most I will say about this, and I'm not going to spur any drama, that I'd like to see what will happen in 5 to 10 years of how those scenes evolve and mature.
I did not know about this tweet, so this is all news.
Well, it's just like it's a general thing I've seen so much, and I didn't see your review, but I've seen this person's tweets every now and again, and just how salty they are. Like, it's unusual for me. I haven't seen that very much, where an artist has gotten so salty about her. I know that Ryan, you gave the new was it the Rhyme album like a warm review? Who is it?
Who? Oh, Prime.
Prime, sorry, not Rhyme. And like,
Prime,
didn't DJ Premier?
DJ Premier was like he commented on the Instagram post of all things. My Instagram isn't even like that big in terms of the following, but he was cool about it. It was okay. It was just being a bit sarcastic, but it was funny to see that he actually saw the review, which is pretty cool. I've had
a little unnerving whenever you get an artist that sees a review, and then either will roll with it, and there are some artists that really do, and I actually have always, like, as much as Post Malone bugs me, the fact that he is rolled with everything Anthony Fantano has thrown at him, it speaks to his character.
I like that. But
he's a bit of a dumbass, but it speaks to his character. But at the same time, though, yeah, as I have went off in my unpopular takes piece like that, I've been blocked by artists that where I've given them positive reviews, but it hasn't been positive enough.
Yeah,
That's
not
like,
good
that's
enough.
Like the worst reaction, I think. It's
That's stupid.
Yeah, it's almost okay to like be mad if somebody gives you your album a 2, but like if you gave someone's album a 7 and they were like, oh, but it's like the greatest thing ever, so why aren't you giving it any more than that? Man, I know so many like, you know, indie rock band kids from my university who are like that, who think they're doing like the best shit and nobody will take notice of them, or you know.
Yeah, but they're just replicating Arctic Monkeys, essentially. Like no, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, is a 7 out of 10 enough? That's the thing. Like, does that get people checking out the album? So maybe that's why they're annoyed. It's like, well, why didn't you give us an 8? Because then people would have checked out the album. But who knows?
At the same time, though, like the critic has to be honest with themselves.
Yeah.
The critic is not a job is to promote the band, and that's one thing that. And this actually ties back to something where I actually very fervently disagreed with John, and I told him this in person. The whole Woodstock promotional campaign for Portugal the Man.
Oh,
where they basically got a bunch of critics together, and they said, and they wanted the critics to pan the record in the promotional rollout, and it was a bunch of YouTube critics, and then basically then they would use that as part of their marketing.
right.
And they actually approached me for that, and I outright refused to do it. To me, that's the sort of, I get where it did not compromise John's integrity or any critic that otherwise covered it, but for me, it always felt like the second my job starts becoming the promotion of an artist, we have an issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was
Interesting.
that thing? Because I do remember seeing something about Portugal the Man and like ARTV having like a back and forth with them. What was the reasoning behind that? And did they actually succeed? Did they get, you know, traffic from it?
Well, Portugal the Man had their biggest ever album after after this one. I'm entirely going to say it is YouTube critics that did that.
That's amazing. I mean, it's
We're doing it, guys. Well done.
well, not in the correct way, you know. Certainly not. That's not the way to go about it. But wow, that's crazy. I did not understand that sort of what was going on at the time. Like, I just saw them everywhere, you know. It didn't make me listen to the album, but they were around, like they were in my feed all the time. So man, that's crazy. Now looking at it now, like what you taught, amazing.
Well, it's kind of funny because the separation where artists are now so much closer in their social media to critics and commenters, which it makes things seem really weird. I'll freely admit it, especially when you get the big artists.
Yeah.
Because watching Halsey beef with Anthony Fantano, watching Wale beef with Anthony Fantano.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're now seeing that sort of it almost because they are now realizing that the critics have enough celebrity where they don't need to rely on the artist anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And the power dynamic is almost shifted to something close to what it was back in the late 60s, early 70s, where a strong critical write-up could break a band in the same way. And the critic has that level of personality. It's bringing back to the area of like Lester Bangs and Lenny Bruce.
Yeah. Wow.
It's cool though.
You never realize like how powerful reviewers are until you like sit down and realize sometimes. I mean, like the Needle Drop, I think, definitely has the power to bring an artist up as much as he does kick an artist down.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's just in that position at this point. Like if he gives a bad review, you know, it goes noticed. Pretty much everybody knows. Like a not good review. Like those videos, you know, everybody will take that on board as like, this is definitely something to avoid, unless they, you know, actually give their own, you know, voice their own opinion, which is I guess what a lot of people aren't that up for doing now. Like, you know, the needle drop says it himself that, you know, there's a lot of people who just take his opinion on board and they roll with that.
Yeah, and you see it on Rate Your Music as well.
Is that any different than anybody who's going to basically say, Pitchfork like this, so I like it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's just replaced Pitchfork in a way, I suppose. But essentially, yeah, I don't think Pitchfork have that same impact as they once had. But
For the younger generation, they don't.
Say that again?
For the younger generation, they certainly don't.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So,
go on.
So you do think it's like a generation thing? You just think like it's the younger people who got into Fantano first before Pitchfork, or is it, you know, people who've been around a bit longer that where they still take Pitchfork's, you know, reviews as like a you know, a genuine thing to take seriously?
The hilarious thing is that Pitchfork used to be an outlet that I could take seriously.
Yeah.
If you go back to like the early 2000s, yes, they had their issues. My God, they had their issues. But it cultivated a subset of critics who actually had a distinctive voice. Like as much as we used to hate those old, overly verbose, incredibly pretentious Pitchfork reviews, that's what they built their brand on.
Yeah, sure.
And then I can't deny that there's a certain element of, I hate using the word because I don't think it's entirely apt, but gentrification of Pitchfork.
Right.
Where they're required to cover stuff that's more hot, and I don't know how much of that is driven out based of the buyout by Condon or some of that was naturally where they were going, in way, shape, or form, but that's what happens.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think it's been since Condé Nast they've become less reliable, because I don't know, I see more often than not people going like, really? Like, this is best new music? Like, this is not even a good album. Like, in the comment sections, it's just a constant, like, argument, like, back and forth of people just being like, yeah, Pitchfork are wrong again and stuff like that. And that's been since, like, what, was it like 2015 they got bought by Condé Nast, or 2014? I don't know.
2014.
Yeah, it's just been around since then, so I don't know. That's since I've noticed it.
They've always gotten the "you're totally wrong" thing. Like, ask any Tool fan coming out of early 2000s Pitchfork.
Oh god, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think the one review that always sticks in my mind from Pitchfork is that they gave the first Panic at the Disco album a 1.
Yeah,
it's not even that bad, that album.
I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good album.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad.
Of theirs, but it's good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's bad at all, but
no, but a 1, like
yeah, like a 1.
I don't think I've ever seen.
What?
I don't think I've seen any other critic give a 1 to something. Thinking about it, actually. When was the last time you gave a 1 to something, Mark?
I've only given 1 out of 10 in my entire reviewing career, and that was AJR.
I thought that was the only one.
Yeah. Wow. See, it's
because the only 2 out of 10s I've given were Thomas Rhett, Ray Schrimmer twice, and I think it was. And if I go back to what I was writing on my blog, it would have been Chris Brown's Fortune and will.i.am's Willpower.
Those are all so reasonable. Thinking about it, actually. I mean, what about you, Ryan? When was the last time you gave something I guess for you it would be like a 0 point. No, you do A, B, C.
Yeah. F is my lowest.
What was the last time you gave someone an F?
Oh man, what was it? It might have been Tekashi 6ix9ine, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's been something since then. But maybe I think it was Tekashi 6ix9ine. There have been some bad albums this year for sure.
Speaking of this year, on I guess our last topic, I think something that I really wanted to cover, and I think we should definitely cover, is what's going on recently. The biggest thing, Mr. Kanye West and his Twitter comeback. I mean,
what are you talking about? He's woke now. He's woke. Come on, man. He's red pilled. He's red pilled, guys.
He's
red pilled.
So sad. And not because of his political views. I couldn't care less, honestly. It's the track that he made, not the poopity scoop track.
Oh, the
I
one
thought
with
that was
T.I.
stupidly funny. But it's the one
Yeah,
with
yeah.
T.I. where him
Yeah.
and T.I. essentially argue opinions, of right wing, left wing politics, blah blah blah, and it's like watching. I don't know. It's pretty much a political discussion. There's no artistic intent, and at that point, I was like, well, it's in the music now. Now it's like, now it's just sad. And it was so upsetting to see it progress to this point. I thought Kanye was just being, I don't know, like Kanye, on Twitter. Like, this isn't the first time he's pissed someone off, but like, it got into the music. Now it's just upsetting. Now it's kind of depressing, really.
Well, here's my point. I think it's been in the music for probably since My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah,
but surely not as like.
No, it hasn't.
Surely not.
Yeah,
surely not as like open as this track is. Like it's so like he's trying to defend himself so bad. It's painful to watch to me to listen to.
Keep in mind, this is a guy who made songs like Black Skinhead.
Right.
Like when I take a look at here's the thing that frustrates me around the whole Kanye West conversation. I'm not surprised by any of it.
No.
Like,
no.
If you go back through even the records that a lot of people have canonized as his good stuff, he's always had a flair for provocation and trolling and prodding with the media and the audience. And some of that is coming from an intense sense of self-awareness, but also some of it comes from being deeply unself-aware. That's the sort of thing where he will get drunk and go up on stage and I'm really happy for you, but Beyonce had the best album of all time.
Yeah.
Like, that came from a real place. I think some of his work does come from a real place. But at the same time, there has always been that deeply self-contradictory level of self-gratification, self-effacement, balanced out with some self-deprecation, and the merging of all of that, when he started throwing aside the veneer of self-awareness that he has, that's when things started to go off the rails. And I'm one of the people who am not as crazy about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy because so much of that ego is still present there. So much of that desire to prod and poke at an audience and try and draw out that controversy and provocation. And it continued on to Yeezus. It continued in a less coherent form on The Life of Pablo. And even that debate track he decided to put out with T.I., I'm sitting there and I'm like, this sounds like what Kanye heard Joyner Lucas's I'm Not Racist, and it's like, I want to make a version of that.
Oh, I never thought about it that way, actually.
Yeah, it totally reminded me of that when I listened to it.
Well, I mean...
But the thing is, I just think, like, the politics, though, haven't been that prevalent. Yeah, the ego has always been there since, like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Everything you said has been there, but he's never been overtly political like this, and I don't think that's something that we've ever seen on his albums. Maybe here and there he'll throw in a line, like in Power. In Power was quite like a socially political track, but other than that, there aren't too many on his albums.
See, I would actually disagree and say he's been political from the start. I think he's had political songs where even on College Dropout, a lot of time on
Jesus Walks.
Yeah, exactly.
It
falls down.
It's what I mean, like
but it's not quite like the government type stuff. It's not like the government. I'm right wing, I'm left wing. It's never been like that.
I don't think I just don't think it's ever been so. At least it's always been with artistic intent to actually make something, to be creative, to actually like develop. Like an interesting, captivating track. It's been with intent to actually make music, whereas this new track is like just a conversation that they could have easily just sat down and discussed it. And I would have thought, right, okay, I can actually see this. Two adults sitting down and discussing politics. I mean, like, maybe that's what hip-hop artists... I don't want to say hip hop. Music should be doing is musicians sitting down. If you have no artistic intent to bring your politics to, I don't want to hear it. I don't understand.
I mean, to be honest, it's Kanye, and this is probably all just a ploy to promote an album. Do you not think?
I think that's worse because if you're not, because you're now in a situation where politics has become so ingrained, especially stateside, where a lot of it has that polarization has become so deep and entrenched that as much as there is a desire to start the conversation, when you boil out so much of the nuance, and I'll give credit to T.I. for trying to include some nuance, but it's T.I.
Yeah, and I mean, they're like, I was.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like the points brought up were so like surface level. Like I've heard these conversations before. I don't know why. Like I need to hear them in a Kanye T.I. track.
Yeah,
the thing is that Kanye is better than this. Like, and the thing that I find so infuriating is that he actually did have those levels of nuance that he brought to his earlier work. But the problem is when he has made broad provocation, it's backfired on him. But it's drawn the publicity, it's drawn the ears, and thus I'm not surprised to see him lean into more of it.
Yeah.
So do you think, like, on that track, Kanye just had nothing relevant to say? Do you think it was all just like crap, or what would you think there was something from it? Did you both not get anything?
No.
Or
no, I got nothing. Honestly, I was just upset. Really, I was like drained, like emotionally from listening to it. I was so like I was in work when I heard it. I was on my break. I was on my lunch break, and I came back upstairs to go back to work, and was just so dead inside from listening to it. Man, I thought at least something, even if Kanye was gonna spout political shit at me, I was at least gonna expect to come out of it entertained. But it just wasn't.
Okay, fair.
And for me, it's like I heard the song and I'm like, you know what? I've heard this done better. I have heard the
Do you think that was Joyner
conversation
Lucas
done better. I've heard the introspection done better. But like the one song that I always like to go to in terms of tracks that are taking a broader point of view surrounding a more political subject matter and can get a little bit more introspective but also self-critical. And I think that was the big thing that really bothered me about the T.I. and Kanye track, is that neither side were particularly self-critical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true.
And the one song that I've always loved that did this, it's called "Who Killed Russell Jones" by B. Dolan.
Right.
B. Dolan he's an underground hip hop artist out of Rhode Island, primarily spoken word poetry. And "Who Killed Russell Jones" is more on the spoken word poetry side. But what made the song so potent is that Russell Jones was the government name for Old Dirty Bastard.
Oh.
And it goes into every facet of why Russell Jones died. What was the ultimate reason why Old Dirty Bastard, and who is to be held to blame.
Yeah.
And basically the song is a list of people who have basically stepped back and say, oh, I can't be held responsible. And you have the promoters who gave him the drugs, the police who were involved and kept arresting him, sending back to jail, the judges who actually condoned those sentences. And then there was the audience, the people who are the fans, who actively got involved in his wild, crazy artistic persona and continued to enable that. And it raises a large, extenuating questions, not just surrounding the politics of how somebody who is addicted to drugs and their relationship that they have with both the artist and the audience as well, but also how much culpability lies with that. And circling back to the Kanye and T.I. track, not only did it feel surface level, it felt like there wasn't any examination of culpability of where their artwork has lied within the larger political conversation. Because both T.I. and Kanye, to some extent, have been both self-critical, have contributed to a self-critical conversation, but at the same time, they've also cranked out enough hype anthems that would otherwise lean more right-wing than I think a lot of people would otherwise acknowledge.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
it's funny that you brought up the Old Dirty Bastard, and you said that it's the fans. Like the fans are a part of that. I almost think that like these Kanye fans who are like, Kanye can do no wrong, like Kanye could, shit on my face, shit on my dog, kill my dog, and it would be the correct thing to do. I almost think that like those kinds of people are the more frustrating than Kanye himself sometimes. Like, I just
absolutely,
yeah,
because they're unself-aware. They're not. I see a lot of stan culture, and this is something I've been looking and thinking. I've been developing a larger piece surrounding stan culture. I see that, and I'm like, it's not helped by social media because everything feels so much closer, so much more intimate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, you know what? Like, again, it's a system of enablement. Everyone is feeding in through every like and retweet. They're highlighting how much Kanye can feel like he can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like, man, it's just so frustrating because I guess I sit back and you know, I'm not. I guess I've on the odd time sort of quoted a Kanye tweet, and even I'm contributing, you know,
like, feeding into the ego.
I know it's absolutely frustrating because the only thing you can do to like not contradict yourself at that point is sit back and not say anything, which you almost can't. Like, as a person who's like so involved in the YouTube the sort of critic community and the music community, you're itching to say something.
Oh, it's not even that. Sometimes I get people asking me.
Oh well, I guess with you, as we have right now. I guess
yeah.
This is what we've done
essentially.
Oh my gosh, I'm in like a loophole now.
But that's the thing, and I actually did a video on this 2 years ago surrounding the Taylor Swift, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian controversy. And my ultimate point coming out of the end of the video was pointing the finger at the audience. I'm like, by me engaging in even the conversation, we are perpetuating the cycle of fame that surrounds this. We are drawing those additional clicks, and by you watching it, you're part of it too.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. We're all in one giant loophole. In a circle.
And Kanye is controlling us all.
Yes.
Everything sucks, we're all gonna die.
I think that's a really good place to end the podcast.
Absolutely.
I think so. Yes, we're all gonna die, and that is all. That's all we need to say.
And it's good to know that this was the last thing you watched.
Of course.
Oh my god, thank you so much, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Absolutely,
well,
thanks so much.
I'm happy to be on. This was a good conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you very much. This was awesome. Yeah, and to anyone who listened, I'm sure many people did. Thank you for listening as well. Thank you, Mark, again. Thank you, Josh, for being here, of course, all the time. And yeah, we're going to end it here, and that is all. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and goodbye.